All right, welcome to this special episode of Real Estate Fight Club. This series is called What Would You Do?, where we talk about professional standards and ethics committee violations. And today with me is Rachael Real. Hey, Rachael.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I don't know. I think I said this before, but I always feel like I'm at the principal's office when I talk to you.
I'm going to get myself, one of these days, I'm going to get myself a little name plaque for my desk, and we're going to show that at the bottom.
You need it. You need it. So, all right, Rachael, today you wanted to tell us what is the pathway to Realtor Jail?
Right. So I kind of thought, we do a lot of talking about what happens when you end up in an ethics hearing and potentially find yourself going to Realtor Jail.
Right.
But we've never really talked about how do you find yourself in that position to begin with.
Yeah. Like, so how did you get there?
How did you get here? Right.
So is this like a how-to?
Right. It's a how to not. We'll put that in parentheses. How to not go to Realtor Jail.
Okay.
Right. So of course it means don't violate the code of ethics, but once you do, right. How does this happen that you end up in the chair in front of this hearing panel pleading your case for staying out of Realtor Jail? So there's a couple of things. And now keeping in mind too, that the code of ethics is national. So every board of realtors in every state, Ohio, Illinois, Florida, California, they're all bound by the same National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics. And it comes with this handy dandy manual that talks about how to move through this process. It's Code of Ethics and Arbitration Manual.
And so if every board listening to this, like you have the graphic for it.
Right. Yes.
Right. And if you want to pull it up, well, you can see it sort of on YouTube a little bit, but if you want the graphic your own, you can go to jennifermertlin.com/vault and there's a What Would You Do folder and it will be in there.
Yeah. So this is just something that our board put together that says, hey, if you are, when you go to our board website and you say, I want to file a complaint, it says, hey, check out the flow chart so that you kind of know how you're going to get through this process.
Okay.
And again, this looks kind of like this here. So you'll see that on the vault.
Okay.
So, if you find yourself in a situation where you're like, hey, I think something funky is going on. The first thing you can do is every board generally will have a professionalism hotline. So a professionalism hotline can be for members, realtor members or consumers.
I didn't know that.
If a consumer has a concern, they can call this professionalism hotline.
Okay.
Go to the board. Somebody there, a staff person, will likely answer that. They get all kinds of crazy calls, but it's I would
actually like to have like phone duty a couple days on that.
Oh, I think our so staff girl is like, they get all kinds of wonky calls, I'm telling you, and stuff that does not belong at the board.
Right.
All kinds of things. So again, if that's something that doesn't really work, then you can go to an ombudsman program. I don't think every state or every board has this.
A what?
An ombudsman program.
Okay.
So an ombudsman is somebody who is like a mediator.
Okay.
So we have an ombudsman committee at our board, and I'm on that also. But what that is if a realtor member calls the board and says, I have a problem with this other agent, I'd like to try and work it out, see if we can come to some kind of agreement. I just need some help getting through this.
Is that mainly commission disputes or is that anything?
It can be anything. So if you're I would say generally it probably involves money more than anything, just because you're trying to avoid an arbitration is what you're trying to do.
Right. Okay.
So an ombudsman is somebody that's a volunteer that will be the neutral third party that will talk to both sides, go back and forth and kind of help them problem solve.
You guys have to get licensed as a mediator to do this?
There isn't a specific license for it, but we do have training that goes through IAR and our board every single, I want to say it's at least every renewal period.
Okay.
So they have a specific ombudsman training where we do.
I'm interested. I've never heard of that, but okay.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah. And I would say the requests don't come up all that often, but it is a good tool to have, because what it does is then if you can work through that issue with an ombudsman, you can
easier
avoid
and better. Yeah.
Well, it's just, you can avoid taking up the time of staff. You can avoid going through a hearing and arbitration, whatever it might be.
All the drama.
So that's a great. Okay. Exactly. There's a lot of drama. So there are several articles to the Code of Ethics that are part of what we call a citation program. And there can be certain standards of practice under Articles 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 14, and 16. Yeah. So we don't need to read through all those, but essentially what it comes down to is the citation program means that you have to have something that's provable by supporting documentation only. So if you say, if I look at you and you have an ad that you've placed in the in the local paper, whatever it is, and there is clearly a violation there, you've put the ad under your name and you've not referenced your brokerage anywhere on it.
Okay.
Clearly it's a violation.
Okay.
I can take a picture of that ad, snap it as a JPEG or a PDF, go to my local board website, file a complaint, and you're going to follow the instructions for the citation program, because all you have to do is fill out that form, attach that ad that says clearly you're in violation, and there's no hearing that's involved.
Okay.
So it's straight
Because
up
it's like a
decision.
straight, and that's anonymous.
That can be anonymous, yes.
That's bullshit.
Well, the whole reason is that because there's black and white proof that can go along with that. It's allowed.
I still have the right to know who is tattling on me.
In the event that it goes to a hearing. So if somebody gets cited through the citation program for a violation, and they say, hey, I don't agree with this, I want to go to a hearing.
Okay.
What happens is that the grievance committee will then step in as the complainant and will act as the complainant in the hearing. So even though it's still anonymous, the grievance committee member, which wouldn't be the person that actually filed the anonymous complaint, would be the one that would step in.
Okay.
So it's done. That was done so that we can
tattle on each other.
Well, so that you can encourage people to maintain the integrity of what it is that they're supposed to be found, integrity of advertising, signage, whatever it might be, without, being the narc of the neighborhood, the narc of your MLS or whatever.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But I mean, I see the reason. I see the reason for it, because
I get
otherwise
it. I mean,
you have a lot of.
Yeah, I know. You're right. Okay.
And there is no hearing. So those have to be, the decisions are based solely on the information provided, and that's it. There's no hearing, there's no testimony, there's no nothing.
But sorry, go ahead.
No, so there's a citation program that goes to the grievance, goes to the grievance committee. So the grievance committee looks at those things and says, yeah, these things are pretty cut and dry.
Easy.
Move through those.
Move it forward. Okay.
Right. So outside of that, you go through an ethics complaint. So if it doesn't qualify as part of a grievance through the citation program, then what you would do is file.
Like, it's not so black and white. Like, something happened. There's a story about it.
There's a story to it. It doesn't fit the criteria of these. And there's a spreadsheet, not a spreadsheet, but a whole list of articles and things that are qualify under that citation program. So if it's not a citation program, option, then you're going to a full-fledged hearing. So that means your complainant is going to log into your local board of realtors, initiate an ethics complaint, and it's going to go to what they look at as a grievance committee. So the grievance committee also looks at citation, but they also look at these cases.
And do they say, they're the ones that say, like, yes, this seems legit, like a legit complaint, or no, this is not?
They really have to look at it only on the face of what they have. So it's based only on the information that they're provided, with the complaint, and only on the face of what they have. So they can't look at it and go, oh, I'm going to look up something in the MLS. I'm going to ask for more information. They can only look at what they have and determine. It's kind of, we would equate it a little bit to a grand jury. So a grand jury looks at a whole bunch of different cases and goes, yeah, I think there's enough here to move it forward.
Okay.
So either they make the decision, is there enough to move it forward, or is there not?
Okay.
If there's not, they just dismiss it and everybody moves on.
Okay.
They determine that there is in fact enough to move it on, then that goes to a hearing panel. So the grievance committee will determine if it's an acceptable, if the complaint itself is in the acceptable format. If it's not, they can send it back and say, no, you need to fill out these particular forms, all that stuff. They're going to look at if all the necessary parties are named. So you've got to make sure that you have the right people listed as the complainant and the respondent.
Mm-hmm.
Is the party that they're accusing of a violation a member of the board? Because if it's not, then obviously it doesn't.
Then you can't. Yeah, because
it's an ethics complaint for a member of NAR.
And we've talked about this before, but I think this is something. We need to point this out. Is there are real estate agents that are not realtors. A realtor, correct. Yes, a realtor is a member of NAR, which then they are now held accountable to the code of ethics. So if you are not a member of NAR, then I think a majority of real estate agents are also realtors, but not all of them.
Not all of them. And I think it's going to depend a lot by state and by state rules as far as that goes too.
Well, and by company rules, right? So like the EXP who I'm with, they require us to be a member. But Rachel, you are your own brokerage. Like you could easily decide that you don't feel like being a member anymore.
I could, but then I would lose all access to our MLS. I would lose access to our board.
So
I would
that's
lose
why
access to everything because all of it is tied together in a nice little bundle.
Well, and that's what most brokerages and most agents are actually realtors, but it's confusing because it
is very confusing because really the only people that at least in Illinois that could potentially be non-realtors but still licensees working actively in the business would be people like myself who are completely independent. So I'm not a member of a brokerage. I'm a sole proprietor. I am my own person. That's it. It's just me. If I was going to be at Coldwell Banker, EXP, Remax, any of those, all of those are going to require that I'm a member of NAR, our local board, and IAR.
Okay, good.
So, but oddly enough, I have gotten some calls from agents, in the past year that have said, "Hey, I'm a licensee. I'd like to show one of your listings," and I'm looking for them through the MLS. I'm like,
and they're
not
there
you anywhere. They're like, "Oh, I'm not a realtor. I'm a licensee."
Got it. Is this a good point to take a break, or do we need to keep?
Well, let's do. Let's do that.
Okay.
And then we're going to pick up where we left off.
Okay, perfect. So let's take a quick break. I want to tell you about a couple of our partners. So we have a new one, Rachel. It's called, Cyberbackers. So the cool thing that I like about Cyberbackers is they are virtual assistants. So if you want to grow your business, but you don't want to do like, you want to focus on the lead generating stuff. And this you don't want to do
you're not good at
and doesn't require like somebody physically to be present, like paperwork, transaction,
or doesn't require a license.
Doesn't require a license. So like social media marketing, inputting listings, stuff like that. You can go to cyberbackers.com and enter the code Fight Club and you'll get a special promotion. And then the other one I want to tell you about is my coach John Kitchens. Love that guy, man. It's just like
a good name.
I know, Coach John Kitchens. Yeah, it's good. So if you are feeling stuck like I was feeling, and the thing about having a coach is you don't know what you don't know, and everybody else can see it but you, right? And so like having a coach really helps like open up those blind spots way quicker, and then you can do yourself. So you might as well freaking get a coach, man. That's what I think. I always have one, at least one, maybe. Well, right now I have two. I always have like a couple of people, like tell me why I'm not where I want to be, So for him, it's called coachkitchens.com and you enter in Fight Club and you will get a free 30-minute business assessment, even though he really only needs 5 minutes to tell you what
your problem is.
The 25 minutes are there to make you feel better.
I love it. Smart therapist also.
Exactly.
Oh God, I love it.
All right, back to our flow. So we were at, if you
is the respondent a member of the board? If they're not, if they're just plain old a licensee, then no, you can't move it forward. It just isn't a possibility. Are there any criminal or civil litigations pending? So if somebody decides
with
to
the
file
property of the complaint or whatever,
or if somebody is, for instance, filing an ethics complaint against a realtor, but there's also civil proceedings going on for a divorce that might involve some of those same parties, you can ask the board to put your ethics complaint in abeyance, which means they'll kind of put it all to the side. They'll make sure they've got it all together, because you've got to file these things within 180 days.
Okay.
If you don't file it in 180 days, you're outside of the window and you're now done. So once you hit 181 calendar days, boy, if you haven't filed it, you no longer can file it. So, and you understandably so, civil litigation or criminal litigation can go a whole lot longer than 180 days.
Right.
So as long as everything is turned in, you can request that they put it in abeyance, which means then they'll wait.
Not just continue to pursue it at the same time.
No, because what could happen is either party, for whatever reason, could end up using findings in an ethics hearing, even though it's not permitted in the civil litigation and vice versa. The civil litigation information could be used in the ethics complaint. So you want those to be two separate and distinct.
Okay.
Can the board provide an impartial panel? It's generally not a problem. The professional standards committees on all the boards are pretty big and extensive, and there's really no reason that they shouldn't be able to provide, a panel of impartial people. And lastly, are there specific articles cited appropriate for the complaint that's filed? So if someone's filing a complaint on, for instance, advertising, if they file under Article 2, it doesn't jive.
Okay.
You need to make sure that you're filing the correct article for the correct.
That makes sense.
Yes. So once they do that, they move it forward to a hearing, and then the hearing panel is going to be assembled by staff. So you've got a panel of 3 to 5 people, at which point the respondent and the complainant will be notified that the hearing has been scheduled. They'll ask to be
staff?
So the staff at the board. So our local board has a professional.
I thought, why am I thinking that? So the grievance committee is really what agents volunteer for.
Agents volunteer for grievance committee, and they also volunteer for professional standards.
Okay.
But there is professional and ethical practices staff at our board that runs all of these things.
Okay.
So the people that are on the professional standards committee are the ones that sit on these panels and discuss whether or not people are in violation, and then put those sanctions forward if they are found in violation.
Okay.
So staff does a lot of work in gathering all of the information, making sure everyone is aware of what's going on, the process by which the hearing is going to happen, deadlines for turning in documents, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
So once they find out whether or not they are in violation, if the respondent's found not in violation, findings of fact are written by the panel and mailed out. And that's what happens there. If the complainant appeals, then the complainant can appeal based only on the alleged procedural deficiencies or other lack of due process. So a complainant
you can't say I don't.
They can't just say, well, I don't like your answer. It's got to be a violation of procedural deficiency or lack of due process. So it's got to be based on something.
Okay.
If they are found in violation, then the findings of fact are written, discipline is put together, and then mailed out to the respondent. If they don't appeal, it goes to the local board of directors. Then they adopt everything and put it in, and then send everything out.
Okay.
If the respondent appeals, they can appeal based on a misapplication of the articles of the Code of Ethics, misinterpretation of the articles of the Code of Ethics, procedural deficiency, lack of procedural due process, or the nature or extent of the discipline imposed. So depending on which side you're on there, you have a little bit of a different reason to be able to appeal if you decide you want to do that.
Okay.
So once that's all done,
there's no jail
on it. Well, the sanction, excuse me, the sanctions would be the jail.
Not really jail though.
Well, right. It all depends on how you look at it.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good one. So
that's how you find yourself in the hot seat.
Yeah, the hot seat, right? So
Right.
Take the mediation, so you're not in the hot seat. Pretty much. I think that's where we landed.
Exactly. Yes. If the board will, like our board requires mediation before an arbitration.
Okay.
So not necessarily for an ethics complaint, but if you were going for an arbitration where you're trying to get money back, they will require a mediation prior to an arbitration.
Okay.
And they'll give you up until that last second before we excuse everybody and say we're going in to deliberate now. We'll give you the last thing we say to those people is, do you want 15 minutes to try and work this out? Because if you don't take it, this is either going to go all one way or all the other way. There is no in the middle.
Okay.
So if there's ever any situation where somebody decides, hey, it's probably better off that we just split this, whatever this is.
Right. Or we find it in the middle. Yeah. We figure.
Right. Because the panel can't find you in the middle.
No.
It's either all this
right or wrong.
Right.
Interesting. This is a really interesting, flow, but we have to get to the point of okay, so who's telling on who and when should you tell and all that.
Well, and we're a self-policing industry. So the only way that we can maintain some kind of integrity and raise the bar is to hold other realtor members accountable.
I can think of a lot of ways to raise the bar in this industry. And one of them is electing me czaress of real estate.
Czaress.
Czaress. I mean, isn't that the female version of czar?
It might be.
Czaress.
I don't know.
Czaress. I like it, right?
Right. Sure. We'll go with that.
And I will make sure that we clean it up.
Right. Yes. There is no fee to file an ethics complaint. So if you feel right. Yes. So if there is a If there's they don't want a fee to hold somebody back from holding someone accountable.
I mean,
for some
agreed. That makes sense.
unethical behavior. Right. There is a fee to appeal if you want to appeal.
Okay. It's hilarious.
Of course.
That's funny. Well, Rachel, you are a fountain of knowledge. I appreciate you being on.
And not of youth.
Not of youth. Oh my God. You are also
knowledge, not of
youth and knowledge.
Right.
And energy.
Can you find that when you get your czar, when you become the czaress?
Yes, if you
go the fountain of realtor youth.
Yes.
This job makes you go gray way faster than any other job I've ever had.
It's true.